The September rain hammered Chicago's streets like bullets on glass. The hostess looked her up and down. Rain-soaked coat, worn jeans, the metal crutch. Her smile never reached her eyes. "Do you have a reservation?" "No. I just need to sit for 20 minutes. Please. Can I sit here?" The Mafia Boss looked up. The entire restaurant went silent. She had no idea who he was. He had killed 17 men. What happened in the next 3 seconds would change both their lives forever. But let me take you back to how a disabled nurse became the only thing a monster ever loved. Annabella collapsed into the chair, tears of relief stinging her eyes. She couldn't speak. Couldn't process that someone had finally said yes. Ira raised one hand without looking away from her, and a waiter appeared instantly. "Soup, bread, water, whatever she wants." He didn't ask her preferences. He just ordered. And somehow, that simple act of taking control felt like mercy. They sat in silence while the food arrived. Annabella ate slowly, her hands shaking. She could feel the entire restaurant watching them. Whispers rippled through the air like static electricity. But Ira didn't seem to notice or care. He just watched her with an intensity that should have frightened her, but somehow didn't. "Why did you let me sit?" she finally asked. "Because you asked. Everyone else said no." "I'm not everyone else." Something in his voice made her look up. Really look. His face was hard, carved from stone, but his eyes held something she recognized. Something broken. Something that had been alone for a very long time. Over the next hour, something extraordinary happened. Annabella began to talk. About her accident. About her fiancé, Marcus, who'd been driving that night. About the semi-truck that crossed the median and how she'd woken up 3 days later in a hospital bed, missing her right leg and the only man she'd ever loved. About her nursing career that ended because she couldn't stand for 12-hour shifts anymore. About the phantom pains that felt like her missing leg was still there, still burning, still reminding her of everything she'd lost. And Ira Volkov, the man who hadn't shown genuine emotion in 15 years, listened. He didn't offer platitudes. Didn't tell her it would get better. Didn't do anything except exist beside her pain without flinching from it. When she tried to leave, he stopped her. "Let me drive you home. I don't even know your name." "Ira." She should have been afraid. She wasn't. The next 3 weeks unfolded like a dream Annabella was terrified to wake from. Ira found excuses to see her. Coffee at her neighborhood cafe, where he sat with his back to the wall and watched the door like a soldier expecting ambush. Dinner at quiet restaurants where the staff knew better than to disturb him. Long drives along Lake Michigan where she didn't have to walk, where she could just sit beside him and watch the water turn gold in the setting sun. He never touched her beyond helping with her crutch. Never kissed her. Never pushed. He just existed beside her, soaking in her warmth like a man who'd been frozen his entire life. Annabella learned the truth slowly. Not from him, but from a news report about a Volkov family business dispute that left 2 men dead in an alley. She saw his name, saw his face, understood exactly what kind of man had pulled out that chair for her. She should have run. Instead, she confronted him. "Are you a good man trapped in a bad life, or a bad man pretending to be good?" They were parked by the lake. The sun was setting. Ira's hands gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. "I don't know any more," he said finally. "But when I'm with you, I remember what good feels like." He was already in too deep. That night, they kissed for the first time. gentle, terrified, inevitable, like two people reaching for life rafts in the middle of an ocean. And everything changed. Ira began visiting her apartment after midnight, leaving before dawn. They'd sit on her worn couch and he'd tell her things he'd never told anyone. About his first kill at 16. About his father Victor, who'd built the Volkov Empire on blood and fear. About his brother Konstantin, who watched him with jealous eyes and waited for him to fail. About the slow death of his humanity with every order he followed, every body he disposed of, every line he crossed until he couldn't remember where the lines had been. Annabella told him about her guilt. About surviving when Marcus didn't. About the nightmares where she was still trapped in the car, screaming his name while metal crushed her leg. About waking up every morning and forgetting for 3 seconds that he was gone, then remembering all over again. They were two broken people learning how to be whole together. One night, Ira said something that changed everything. "Do you want to leave Chicago?" Annabella looked at him. "What? I can get us out. New identities. Money. We could disappear. South America, maybe. Somewhere warm. Somewhere no one knows the name Volkov." "You're serious. I've never wanted anything in my life. Until you." She should have said no. Should have known it was impossible. But hope is a dangerous thing when you've been drowning for 2 years. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes." They made a pact that night. 2 months to plan. To move money quietly. To arrange documents. To prepare for the moment they'd walk away from everything and never look back. They had no idea time had already run out. Konstantin Volkov sat in his car across from Annabella's apartment, camera in hand, and watched his brother become someone he didn't recognize. For 3 weeks, he'd been following Ira, photographing everything. The coffee dates, the dinners, the late-night visits. And now this, Ira helping a crippled woman into his car, kissing her forehead, laughing. Actually laughing. Konstantin couldn't remember the last time he'd seen his brother laugh. Maybe never. Their father had beaten joy out of both of them years ago. But here was Ira, transformed by this woman into something almost human. It made Konstantin sick with jealousy he couldn't name. He took one final photograph, Ira's face pressed against Annabella's hair, eyes closed, completely vulnerable, and drove to the Volkov estate. The next morning, he placed a dossier on Victor's desk. 63 photographs, timestamps, location logs, a complete record of Ira's betrayal. The file was labeled, Ira's Weakness. Victor stared at the photographs for a long time. His face remained expressionless. When he finally spoke, his voice was colder than Konstantin had ever heard. "Bring him to me." The trap was already set. The summons arrived at dawn. Ira received a text from his father. The estate. Now. He knew instantly something was wrong. Victor never called him without warning. Never used that tone. Ira looked at Annabella, still sleeping in his bed, and felt his stomach drop. "I have to go," he said when she woke. "My father wants to see me." "When will you be back?" 2 hours. Maybe less. He kissed her. Made her promise to stay inside. Locked her door from the outside. He would never forgive himself for leaving her alone. The Volkov estate rose from the Chicago suburbs like a monument to violence. 30 rooms. Armed guards. A legacy built on broken bones and buried bodies. Ira had grown up here. He knew every corner, every shadow, every place his father had taught him to hide a body. The great room was full when he arrived. Kapos, soldiers, Constantine, all watching him with expressions he couldn't read. Victor sat at the head of the table, silent, waiting. "Sit," his father said. Ira remained standing. Victor threw the dossier onto the mahogany table. Photographs scattered like shrapnel. Ira and Annabella in every one. The room went silent. "Explain this." Ira picked up one photograph. Annabella laughing, her head thrown back, joy radiating from her face. For a moment, he couldn't speak. Not from fear. From rage that his private world had been violated. That this moment, this pure, beautiful moment, was now evidence of his weakness. "There's nothing to explain. You've been sleeping with a cripple." "Don't call her that." Victor stood. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. "You've compromised yourself. Compromised this family. For what? A woman who can't even walk without a crutch. She's worth more than everyone in this room combined." The words came out before Ira could stop them. True. Final. Unforgivable. Constantine moved forward. Soldiers reached for their weapons. But Victor raised one hand and everyone froze. "You will end this," Victor said. Each word precise. Measured. Absolute. "Tonight. You will go to her apartment and you will kill her yourself. Or I will send Constantine, and he will make it slow. Then you'll watch. Then you'll inherit everything anyway, knowing what your weakness cost her." Everything he loved was on that table. Ira looked at his father. At the man who'd raised him to be a weapon. Who'd beaten empathy out of him with fists and belts and expectations heavier than chains. Who'd made him into a monster before he'd turned 18. And Ira said the only word that mattered. No. The room erupted. Constantine lunged forward. Soldiers grabbed their guns. Kapos shouted. But Ira stood perfectly still, eyes locked on Victor's. "You dare refuse me? I'm done." Ira's voice was steady. Final. "I renounce my claim. Constantine can have it all. The empire. The legacy. The blood. I choose her." He just signed both their death warrants. Victor moved faster than a man his age should. Gun drawn. Aimed at Ira's chest. The room went silent again. Everyone watching. Everyone waiting to see if Victor would actually do it. Actually kill his own son. "You leave," Victor said. "You die. She dies. There's no escape from this. Then you'll have to shoot me in front of everyone. Let them see what happens when a Volkov loves something more than power." For 30 seconds, no one moved. Father and son. Gun between them. A lifetime of violence and control and obedience hanging in the balance. Then Ira turned his back on his father and walked toward the door. "If you walk out that door," Victor said, voice shaking for the first time Ira could remember, "you're already dead." Ira kept walking. He became a dead man the moment he crossed that threshold. Ira broke every traffic law getting back to Annabella's apartment. His phone pressed to his ear. Ringing. Ringing. No answer. He called again. Again. Nothing. He knew his father's men were already moving. Knew every second mattered. Knew he might already be too late. When he reached her building, he saw 2 black SUVs parked outside. Volkov enforcers. His hand went to the gun at his back. He took the stairs 3 at a time, gun drawn, heart hammering against his ribs. Reached her door. Heard movement inside. He burst through. Annabella stood by the window, confused, holding her phone. Safe. Unharmed. Looking at him like he'd lost his mind. Ira. What? We have to go. Right now. What's happening? My father knows. There's a bounty. On both of us. We have maybe 2 minutes before. Heavy footsteps in the hallway. Men shouting. Doors being kicked. They had 30 seconds. Ira grabbed her hand, pulled her to the fire escape. She barely had time to grab her crutch. They were halfway down when the apartment door exploded inward. Volkov enforcers poured in. Saw the open window. Started shooting. Bullets tore through the fire escape. Metal screaming. Annabella stumbled. Ira caught her, practically carried her down the last flight. They hit the alley running. His car was 2 blocks away. They made it in 90 seconds that felt like hours. As they sped away, Ira checked the rearview mirror. Saw enforcers pouring into the street. Saw Constantine on a rooftop, phone in hand, watching them go. And he knew his brother had let them escape. The motel was 40 miles outside Chicago. Run down. Anonymous. Perfect. Ira paid cash. Locked the door. Finally let himself breathe. Annabella sat on the bed, hands shaking, finally processing what had happened. What was still happening? She looked at Ira, face bruised from the fight during their escape, blood on his shirt, eyes hollow, and asked the only question that mattered. What did you do? He could have lied, could have minimized, could have told her everything would be fine. Instead, he told her the truth. All of it. The confrontation. The photographs. His father's ultimatum. The choice he'd made. The bounty on their heads. The fact that Constantine was hunting them. The Marchetti family seeing opportunity. The reality that they would never stop coming. I walked away from everything, he said, voice cracking. My family. My protection. My life. They'll kill me. They'll kill you. I know what I've done. His voice broke on the last word. This man who'd killed without hesitation. Who'd built an empire on fear. Who'd spent 15 years becoming the monster his father wanted. Breaking. Then why? Annabella whispered. Ira looked at her. This woman who'd asked nothing of him except his humanity. Who'd seen the monster and loved the man underneath anyway. Who'd given him a reason to want to survive instead of just existing. Because my family made me a monster. And you made me remember I'm a man. Annabella crossed the room, took his face in her hands, and asked the question that had haunted her since that first day at Marcello's. Am I worth dying for? Ira didn't hesitate. I've killed men. I've destroyed lives. I've done things that would make you hate me. But in 38 years, you're the only thing I've ever done right. They made love that night. Not with passion, but with desperation. 2 people clinging to each other as the world prepared to tear them apart. They had one night before the war reached them. Morning came with the sound of Ira's laptop opening. Annabella woke to find him already dressed, already working, making calls, moving money, typing constantly. What are you doing? Getting us out. She watched him work. Watched offshore accounts appear on screen. Watched flight bookings. Fake passport applications. Cash transfers. And she realized something that should have occurred to her earlier. He'd been preparing for this. Not consciously, maybe, but instinctively. Like some part of him had always known he'd need an escape route. had always known his father's world would try to kill anything he loved. "I can get us to Brazil," he said without looking up. "New identities. Enough money to disappear. We leave tomorrow night." Just like that. Just like that. Annabella should have felt relief. Should have felt hope. Instead, she felt dread pooling in her stomach. "What's wrong?" Ira stopped typing. Closed his eyes. "I can't just run. Not yet. If I leave now, they'll track us forever. Every transaction. Every movement. I need to erase the trail first." "How?" "My office in Chicago. I keep records there. Backups. Insurance files. Everything that could be used to track us. I have to destroy it all." Understanding hit Annabella like ice water. "You're going back into their territory." He nodded. "They'll kill you. They'll try." "Ira, there's no other way. If I don't erase everything, they'll follow us forever. We'll never be safe. Never be free. This is the only chance we have." She was about to walk back into hell. Annabella stood, grabbed her crutch, made a decision that would have terrified her 2 months ago. "I'm coming with you." "No." "Yes." "Annabella, you can't fight. You can barely walk. You'll slow me down. I'll go alone, get the files, come back. I've been sitting on the sidelines of my own life for 2 years," she said, voice steady. "I'm not doing it anymore. You chose me. Now I'm choosing you. We do this together or not at all." Ira looked at her. Really looked. And saw something he recognized. The will to fight despite the odds. The refusal to be a victim anymore. The courage to walk into danger for something that mattered. He'd taught her that. Without meaning to. Just by showing her that some things were worth the risk. He nodded once. They were both walking into the trap. As they drove back toward Chicago, neither of them knew that the news was already spreading through the underworld like wildfire. Constantine made sure of it. He called every family, every crew, every soldier who might want to make a name. He showed them Annabella's photograph. Told them the story. Ira Volkov, heir to the empire, abandoned everything for a crippled woman. Victor's bounty stood. $3 million. Dead or alive. The Marchetti family mobilized first. Old rivals of the Volkovs, they saw opportunity in the chaos. If they could kill Ira, humiliate Victor, they'd shift the entire balance of power in Chicago. Smaller families followed. Street soldiers looking for glory. Independent contractors smelling blood in the water. And in his office, Viktor Volkov sat alone, staring at a childhood photograph of Ira. 6 years old. Smiling. Before the beatings. Before the murders. Before Victor had systematically destroyed every soft part of his son to make him strong. For just a moment, something flickered in Victor's eyes. Something that might have been regret. Or grief. Or recognition that he'd created this moment himself. Then he turned the photograph face down. Made a phone call. Triple the bounty. I want them both. Every killer in Chicago was coming for them. The office building was eerily quiet. Sunday morning. Skeleton security. Ira used his keycard, still active for now, and they took the elevator to the 23rd floor. His private office, where all the incriminating records, hidden accounts, and escape documentation were stored. Annabella limped beside him, crutch echoing in the empty hallway. Every instinct screamed that this was wrong. Too easy. Too quiet. But they didn't have a choice. Ira unlocked his office. Everything was untouched. He went straight to his computer, fingers flying across the keyboard. Downloading files. Wiping servers. Destroying hard drives. How long? Annabella asked. 12 minutes. She moved to the window. Watched the elevator display on the wall panel. Ground floor. Frozen. Then it moved. Up. Ira. I see it. He didn't stop typing. 17. Still typing. 15. He pulled a hard drive from the computer. Smashed it against the desk. 12. Another drive. Same treatment. 10. We're done. He grabbed her hand. Fire escape. They reached the emergency exit as the elevator dinged behind them. Ira pushed through the door, and they were in the stairwell. Harsh fluorescent lights. Concrete steps. The sound of their footsteps echoing down 23 floors. They made it to the 12th floor when they heard the door above them open. Keep moving, Ira said. But footsteps were coming down. Fast. Getting closer. Ira pulled his gun. Positioned himself in front of Annabella. Waited. Constantine appeared on the landing above them. Gun drawn. 3 enforcers behind him. Brothers faced each other across 10 feet of empty air. I could have killed you a dozen times, Constantine said. I wanted to. Ira said nothing. Just kept his gun trained on his brother's chest. But father took everything from me too, Constantine continued. My mother. My choices. My life. The only difference is you had the courage to leave. He lowered his gun. Stepped aside. Go. You have 10 minutes before I call it in. Ira stared at his brother. Understanding dawning. Constantine had always been jealous. But not of Ira's power. Of his freedom to choose. Why? Because someone should escape this family. Even if it's not me. Constantine's phone rang. Victor's name on the screen. He looked at it. Looked at Ira. Didn't answer. Run. They ran. The parking garage was 3 floors down. Ira's car was where he'd left it. 50 feet away. Safety. Escape. Freedom. They were 20 feet away when 6 men emerged from behind concrete pillars. Marchetti soldiers. The leader, Carlo Marchetti, stepped forward. Gun in hand. Smiling. Nothing personal. Volkov. But 3 million is 3 million. Ira pushed Annabella behind him. Reached for his gun. Before anyone could fire, the garage exploded with sound. Police sirens. Lights. Chaos. Chicago PD units swarming from every entrance. Someone had called in a shots fired report. The Marchettis scattered like rats. In the confusion, Ira and Annabella reached the car. Tires screaming. Engine roaring. They were gone before the first officer could reach them. As they sped onto Lake Shore Drive, Annabella asked the question. Who called the police? Ira looked in the rearview mirror. Saw Constantine on the building roof. Phone in hand. Watching them go. My brother. But the real danger was still coming. The cabin was 3 hours north of Chicago. Deep woods. No neighbors. One of Ira's hidden properties, purchased under a shell company years ago. They arrived exhausted, terrified, alive. Annabella collapsed on the couch. Ira began making arrangements. Flights out of Detroit, not Chicago. New identities. Cash. They'd leave tomorrow night. His phone buzzed. Encrypted message. From a source inside the Volkov organization. Ira read it. His face went white. What is it? He showed her the screen. Victor didn't send soldiers. Hired independent contractor. The Wolf. 5 million. 48 hours. You can't run from this one. Annabella didn't recognize the name. Ira did. The Wolf is a legend in our world, he said quietly. A hitman. The best there's ever been. No loyalty to families. No politics. Just contracts. He's killed judges. Senators. Cartel leaders. 127 confirmed kills over 30 years. And he's never failed. Not once. Ira knew that name. Night fell. Ira built a fire. They sat in front of it, not speaking. Both knowing they might not survive this. Both trying to memorize the warmth while they still could. Finally, Annabella asked the question that had been building since the moment they left Chicago. Do you regret it? Ira looked at her. This woman who'd walked into his life asking for a chair. Who'd seen the monster everyone feared and found the man underneath. Who'd given him something he'd never had in 38 years of violence. A reason to be human. He smiled. Actually smiled. The second time in his life. I regret every day I lived before you walked up to my table. He told her everything then. The first kill at 16. His father's hand guiding his, teaching him where to cut so death came quick. The slow erasure of his conscience with every order followed. The years of being Victor's weapon, Victor's enforcer, Victor's heir. The way he'd stopped feeling anything at all. I was dead. Annabella. I just hadn't stopped breathing yet. You didn't save my life. You gave me one. She cried. He held her. The fire burned low. Tomorrow they would face the impossible. Miles away, in his study, Viktor Volkov sat alone. Drinking expensive whiskey. Staring at photographs of Ira as a child. His wife, dead 10 years, smiled in one frame. Ira at 6, laughing, before Victor had beaten joy out of him. Before the murders. Before the empire consumed them both. Victor remembered teaching Ira to shoot, to kill, to survive in a world that ate weak men alive. He'd made his son into the perfect weapon, the perfect heir. And somewhere along the way, he'd destroyed everything human in him. Victor picked up his phone. Called the Wolf. When you find them, make it quick. Both of them. A pause. And after, bring me proof. I want to know it's done. He hung up, poured another drink. His hand trembled, not from age, but from something he couldn't name. Something that felt like grief but couldn't be. Not for a son who'd betrayed everything. He whispered to the empty room. You were supposed to be stronger than me. Then he smashed the glass and walked away from the photographs. The Wolf was already moving. Detroit Metro Airport. Private terminal. 3 p.m. Their contact, an old ally of Ira's from before he was heir, had arranged a charter to Sao Paulo. New passports. David and Maria Santos. Cash. $200,000. Everything they'd need to disappear in Brazil. Flight left at 6 p.m. 3 hours to wait. At 4:30, their contact received a call. Sweat beaded on his forehead. The charter company was contacted by federal authorities. Flights grounded. Investigation pending. It wasn't federal. It was Victor's money. There's a cargo flight, the contact said quickly. Leaves in 40 minutes. Colombia first, then Brazil. It's not comfortable, but it's the only way out. They ran. Annabella's prosthetic was malfunctioning. The stress. The running. The constant wear. She was limping badly. Each step sent fire through her stump. I can't, she gasped. Ira picked her up. Carried her. Ran the last 100 yards to the cargo terminal. They had 10 minutes. The cargo plane's engines were already running. Loading doors beginning to close. Ira helped Annabella up the ramp, into the belly of the aircraft. Metal. Shadows. The smell of fuel and machinery. Behind them, a black sedan pulled up. A man stepped out. Late 50s. Unremarkable. Gray coat. Briefcase in hand. He looked at Ira. Ira looked back. The wolf. Time stopped. The wolf set down his briefcase. Opened it. Inside, a rifle. Disassembled. He began putting it together. Slow. Methodical. Professional. Get on the plane, Ira shouted to Annabella. She refused to leave him. The wolf finished assembly. Loaded around. The sound echoed across the tarmac like a death knell. He raised the rifle. Aimed at Annabella. Ira stepped in front of her. The wolf adjusted his aim. Now at Ira's head. Through the scope, Ira could see his finger on the trigger. Could see the calculation in his eyes. Professional. Efficient. Final. 5 seconds passed. The wolf lowered the weapon. Your father paid me $5 million. How much is her life worth? Ira's voice was steady. Everything I have. 200,000. It's all that's left. The wolf nodded once. Done. Now go before I change my mind. They scrambled onto the plane. The loading door sealed. Engines roared. The aircraft began to move. Through a porthole window, Annabella watched the wolf disassemble his rifle. Put it away. Walk back to his car. Why did he let us go? She whispered. I paid him. 200,000 isn't worth more than 5 million. No, Ira said. It's not. But he didn't understand either. The wolf stood at the airport window. Watched the cargo plane become a speck. Become nothing. He made a call. Victor answered on the first ring. It's done. Victor exhaled. Something breaking in his chest. Where are the bodies? Cremated. No evidence. Clean. Good. Victor hung up. Closed his eyes. Tried to feel something. Anything. Found only the same emptiness that had lived in him for 40 years. The wolf made a second call. A private account. Deposited $5 million. Victor's payment. Then he called a bank in Sao Paulo. Deposited 200,000. Ira's payment. He kept nothing. He whispered to himself. Not everyone deserves to die for love. He walked away. Above, Ira and Annabella held each other in the cargo hold, believing the wolf had spared them for money. They would never know the truth. That even killers have lines they won't cross. Some secrets die with the people who keep them. 6 months later. Sao Paulo, Brazil. A small apartment near the coast. Morning light through sheer curtains. The sound of waves in the distance. Annabella stood at an easel, painting. A hobby she'd rediscovered. Bright colors. Ocean scenes. Things that felt nothing like Chicago. Ira worked construction now. Honest work. physical work, anonymous work. He came home every evening covered in dust and sweat, and it was the most at peace Annabella had ever seen him. They spoke Portuguese now. Passable, getting better. They were married, a small ceremony at a registry office. No one they knew, just them and two strangers as witnesses. David and Maria Santos, a construction worker and his wife. Every morning, Ira made coffee and they sat on their tiny balcony watching the ocean. Annabella had a new prosthetic. Better, more comfortable. She walked the beach now. Sometimes Ira watched her and couldn't breathe from how impossible this life felt. How impossible she was. That she'd chosen him. That she was still here. They never spoke about Chicago. About the Volkovs. About the empire Ira had walked away from. But sometimes, late at night, Annabella woke to find him staring at the ceiling. Eyes open. Not sleeping. Never fully sleeping. "Do you miss it?" she asked one night. "No, Ira. I miss who I could have been if I'd met you sooner. All those years wasted. All those things I can never undo." She took his hand, pressed it to her heart. "We're here now. That's what matters. Some ghosts never fade. But some love is stronger than ghosts." One day, Annabella received an unmarked envelope. No return address. Foreign postage. Inside, a single photograph. Constantine standing outside the Volkov estate, clearly in charge now. On the back, handwritten, "Father died last month. Heart attack. You're no longer wanted. But don't come back. K." She showed Ira. He stared at it for a long time. His face unreadable. Then he walked to the balcony, pulled out a lighter, and set the photo on fire. Watched the flames consume his father's legacy. His brother's face. His old life. Annabella joined him. Watched the ashes blow away over the ocean. "We could go back," she offered. He shook his head. "I chose you over everything, Annabella. That doesn't change because the threat is gone. This is home now. You are home." She leaned against him, felt his arms around her, felt safe. In Chicago, Constantine stood at his father's grave. Fresh flowers. Victor's name carved in marble. Constantine placed a photo there. Young Ira and Victor, smiling, before everything went wrong. He whispered to the headstone. "He was stronger than both of us." Then he walked away. The Volkov Empire continued. Constantine ruled now. The city's underworld adapted. Life went on. But Ira Volkov, the heir, was dead. David Santos, the construction worker, was alive. And for the first time in his life, that was enough. Sometimes love doesn't arrive like a fairy tale. Sometimes it arrives like a mafia boss in a dark corner, offering you his chair when the whole world has turned away. Some love stories don't have fairy tale endings. They have real ones. Some love stories don't follow the rules. Some love is worth losing everything for. If this story moved you, share it with someone who believes in second chances. Leave a comment telling us, what would you sacrifice for love? Subscribe for more stories about courage, redemption, and the choices that define us.